These two cartoons are about Africa. Can you guess where they're from? Both were made in the mid-20th century, but let's take a closer look at how the United States portrayed African countries.
Completely untouched by civilization.
Now, let's take a look at how the Soviet Union did it. Same subject, same century, but two very different stories.
Africans for the longest time have been painted as savages, as people that are less than other races of people, which was pushed around the world, but for the most part in the West. And that ideology still is alive and well, and we see it pop up in conversations that you would think have long gone, and people are educated now and people know better and people will do better because they know better, but that's not actually the case. I just recently came across a video of how the West, specifically the United States of America, used to portray Africans, and they were comparing it with how the Soviet Union used to portray Africans in their cartoons. This was in the mid-20s. Watch this clip, we'll come back and discuss.
These two cartoons are about Africa. Can you guess where they're from? Both were made in the mid-20th century, but let's take a closer look at how the United States portrayed African countries.
Completely untouched by civilization.
Now, let's take a look at how the Soviet Union did it. Same subject, same century, but two very different stories.
Do you see the stark difference between how the US was painting Africans and how the Soviet Union was painting Africans? They are two different ways. At the end of the spectrum, both are on the opposite, because you can see the Soviet Union still made the person human, still made it look like a typical African. It just showed that they made it to communicate that there's this people out here, this is how they do things, this is their community. You don't sense maliciousness, you don't sense that cartoonish savagery. Just watch the US one to compare. And the US one, you can see how they're painted and how they're drawn and how they are portrayed as this almost like non-human, like they don't want to paint the cartoon as like a human being. It's almost like, I don't even have words for it. It's just very degrading, and that is what they were pushing to their audience, to the people that are watching it, their communities. And those same people grow up thinking, oh, Africans are savages. No wonder, because that was the narrative that was being pushed. And I know right now it's not the most popular thing to say in 2025, because the world wants you to hate Russia, right? To hate, back in the days, the Soviet Union, because they want us to believe that they're the enemies. Look at Hollywood, look at their movies, look at what their politicians say, look at what their mainstream media say, always pushing that narrative of this evil people, Putin, the big bad wolf. But let's look at history. Not too long ago, the Soviet Union was helping African countries fight back against colonialism. The Soviet Union provided significant support to many African countries in their liberation movement. For example, let's look at Angola. The Soviet Union was a key supporter of the popular movement for the liberation of Angola and its war for independence against Portugal. And let's look at Mozambique. The Soviet Union supported Mozambique Liberation Front in its fight against Portuguese rule. And let's also look at Guinea-Bissau. The Soviets provided military and financial backing to the African Party of the Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde. There's also Namibia. that the USSR supported the Southwest Africa People's Organization in its fight against independence from South African control. And many people know this. The Soviet Union was against apartheid regime and provided significant support to the ANC, which is the African National Congress, and its armed wing. And they were supporting with military aid, education, and also they helped in political support. So if we were to look at history, we can clearly see who was against African countries, who was colonizing African countries, who was smearing the name of African countries, who till this day want us to believe that we are less than others. They make us believe that our continent is a dead zone and we can only make it when we leave the continent, while they're busy rushing to our continent. So when I saw this video, it made me think of all the pushbacks and the conversations that we have. Even till now, they make us believe that the real enemy is this one, and you have to, at the end of the day, the bottom line, in my opinion, is that African countries are sovereign countries, right? It would be ideal for us to come together and have one voice, one strong voice, so we can tackle all the issues. But we all know we're very far away from that, and our politicians don't seem too happy or are in a rush to make that happen, right? So if we're talking about African countries individually, we need to also consider that we have the power. Even individually, we can still decide who we're going to work with, who we're going to have good diplomatic relationships with, who we're going to do business, quite literally, who is going to help me in my cause, and how am I going to benefit from it. Up until this point, we all know most of the contracts, most of the relationships, most of the diplomatic ties we have is just a bunch of BS, because it mostly benefits the other partner and not us. It's an exploitation. If it helps us, it's usually the few politicians that take the money and put it in their pockets. We've not seen it help and support the people, the majority of the people. So at the end of the day, let's start making demands and let's decide who benefits us the most. And that's how we can be in a better position. Set boundaries. Let's demand for what's rightfully ours. Look at France collapsing and burning down because the countries that they've been exploiting said no to exploitation and want change, want a fair treatment and a fair kind of relationship. When that didn't happen and they kicked out France, what's happening to France right now? Open the news and see. They are in shambles. So let's just continue doing what we're doing and let's learn from one another, and yeah, let's fix Africa one step at a time. Anyways, fam, let me know down below what your thoughts are about the portrayal of Africans, specifically in the mid-20s, between the US cartoonists and the Soviet Union's cartoonists. Let me know down below. I'm Wongel Zelalem. I'll see you on the next one. Stay blessed. Bye.